Hello everyone, welcome back to my corner of the internet. My name is Cait and today I am going to be giving a quick update on my personal curriculum. If you haven't seen that video, I will leave a link here. But essentially I developed a personal curriculum that was aimed at me reading my primary PhD source, The Fairy Queen, and engaging with it in different ways, looking at, for example, Ovid's Metamorphoses, Dante's Inferno, and a couple of other texts. And while I think I was hugely ambitious with this personal curriculum, I have just discovered that as I've kind of gone through my sections of it, that I'm just going to take it on my own time. I was originally hoping to have it all kind of finalized before the end of the year, but for me, I think I'm just taking it slow. So today, what we are going to do is we are going to be reading some of the cantos of Dante's Inferno and some of The Fairy Queen, and I'm going to be listening to some lectures. I'm going to be taking down some notes, and at the end of this, I will be writing out a mini essay, and I will talk to you about how I write out mini essays as a form of consolidating my thoughts as I'm kind of self-studying this. So let's go ahead and do that. I've also only got just under 2 hours to do this before I'm meeting with a colleague of mine, a friend of mine, really, from work. So let's crack on and see how much we can do in 2 hours. As I was writing out my notes on Dante, I decided to see whether there were any research classes on Skillshare. I wanted to improve the structure and flow of my mini essays, and I ended up finding a class on the Skillshare platform that is really going to help me level up my writing process. The class that I'm taking right now is called Turn Big Ideas into Unique Content, Tools for Creative Writing and Research. I'm loving how Robin Waldron, who I've followed on YouTube for a while, has developed a mechanism to help collate ideas and make connections. I'm actually doing one of the projects right now, which involves creating content out of ideas, like I am doing with my mini essays on Substack. Skillshare has a number of creative classes taught by amazing world-class creatives. The platform is designed to help you build creativity into your life by learning directly from real super talented and successful creatives. And in the spirit of lifelong learning and personal curriculums, if you are looking to learn a skill from scratch, maybe build a creative habit, or even level up in your day-to-day career, I highly recommend joining the platform. Right now, since it's November, they have a fantastic offer, which is that the first 500 people to use my link in the description or scan the QR code will receive a 30-day free trial of Skillshare, plus 20% off their first year of membership.
It's certainly leveled up my mini essays and my studies with my personal curriculum, and I highly recommend giving them a go.
All right, friends, I have 5 minutes until my meeting, but that was an insanely productive exercise. I read through Cantos 9, 10, and 11, watched the lecture, and it was the perfect grouping of cantos to look at because it is about Virgil and the pilgrim arriving at the gates of the city of Dis, and it talks about the poet's role, I suppose, in sharing these stories and the information. Alright, friends, as you can tell, it is much later, and I have finished my meetings, and I had started to draft up my mini essay reflecting what I had learned from Dante's Inferno, Cantos 9, 10, and 11. And before I kind of get into that, I wanted to talk a little bit about what a mini essay is. And I came across a video on YouTube, I'll leave it linked in the description box below, on a mini essay, and essentially it just struck me that this was the perfect tool to use in my personal curriculums, and it occurred to me that these mini essays were a great opportunity within my personal curriculum as a powerful sort of concise tool that I can use to deepen my understanding and my thinking on a particular subject. So the mini essays that I have adopted are between 300 and 500 words, and I am writing all of them on my Substack, which I will leave linked in the description box below. If you have the means to support me on Substack, that would be hugely helpful given that I am no longer employed. And so I would really appreciate that. But essentially, a mini essay is not like a full-blown research paper, but it is very structured, and it is structured in that it has a concise thesis statement, which is the main point that you are trying to make. So for me, for this example, is that Spenser adopts a similar idea to Dante by combining the allegory of poets with the allegory of theologians. And then it has supporting evidence or examples, statements why I believe that my thesis is correct, and an explanation of that evidence, connecting my examples to my main point, and then a summary that closes it off. And maybe a final thought or implication. For me, this is usually like a leading question of like what to think next, because I always like to have those sort of interconnected pieces. And that brevity, that forceful brevity, makes me precise and concise and clear about what I'm trying to say. And it's almost like these little boxes of summaries that I can then use when I am pulling together my PhD, because something like this will come up in my PhD. There are a number of benefits, obviously, to these kind of mini essays, and I'm certainly finding that with my personal curriculum. Not only are they providing this sort of great clarity of thought in such a small space, because it forces you to distill an idea down into a short and structured format, it makes you clarify your own understanding. And it is also helping me, I know as a writer, I am particularly verbose, and so it's really helping me to get my meaning across clearly and connecting those ideas that I have. As I say, I always leave my mini essays with like a next question, and so making those connections that way. And what I'm noticing with this is that, as I kind of mentioned before, it's building these kind of like knowledge blocks that I can use for my PhD. And because they're short, they don't take up too much time. I'm not spending a huge amount of time writing them out. And 500 words isn't that much, but it does mean that I am writing every single time, and that is super duper helpful. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up writing my mini essay for these cantos and how they relate to Spenser. Okay, friends, it's much later, as you can tell. I finished up my little mini essay on Dante's Canto 9 and the allegory of poets and the allegory of theologians and how it relates to Spenser's goal to educate his readers. It was really, really interesting. It didn't take me very long. It's by no means perfect, but it will be available on my Substack for my paid subscribers. And so, yeah, that is basically where I'm at with my personal curriculum. I am really loving it. I'm loving reading these texts and finding connections with them where I maybe wouldn't have in the past, or maybe wouldn't have the time to do that in the past. So I'm really excited about that. And I probably won't touch this stuff next week. I am going to be in San Francisco for a week for a work conference, but doesn't mean I can't continue reading, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye.